Chapter 1.
The suicide room. That's what they called room 733, as if I didn't have enough to worry about on my first day as a freshman. We had assigned to dorm room 734, which, it turns out, wasn't one of the nice add-on rooms in the South Hall. No, we found ourselves in the older wing of the building on the 7th floor. I wasn't too bummed out, though. At least they'd honored my request to room with my best friend. Lydia and I spent most of the morning moving ourselves in. By the time our resident advisor came by, I was taping up posters and Lydia was reading. "Hi girls, I'm Beth," chirped the bubbly blonde girl as she bounded into our room. "I'll be your RA this year." "Hi," I nodded at her. "Wow, you girls really work fast," she said, taking in our made beds and hung up clothes. Beth picked up a drawing of Cthulhu that Lydia had done over the summer. She turned it sideways, studying it. "Is this the Kraken from Pirates of the Caribbean?" Lydia glared at her over the top of her book. "So anyway," the RA continued, "I know our hall isn't as new as the South Hall, but trust me, there's a lot of history here. This building is almost 60 years old." "Yes, I can see that," I said, looking around. "The rooms are pretty small." "Well, people were smaller in the 50s. Beth shrugged. "Really?" Lydia said flatly. "Yep, really." Beth pursed her lips and just continued to stand there, while the room filled with awkward silence. "So," I said, "the corner room next to us, 733, is it? It looks a lot bigger than our room. Is anyone assigned to that room, or could we maybe—" "Oh, you don't want that room," Beth interrupted. "There were a couple suicides in there, a hanging and a jumper if I remember right. They're not assigning anyone to that room. Anyway, I'd just like to remind you that this is an all-girls floor, and guys are not allowed up here after 11. Before we could reply to her, Beth clapped her hands and with a quick, "Well, nice meeting you," she skipped out of the room. Lydia dropped her book on the bed and stared out into the hall. "I hate her. Did you hear that bomb she fucking dropped? I'm going to call her dumb shit, Beth." "Lydia, seriously? Suicides?" "Oh, Becca, relax. Every college campus has a few suicides." "Yeah, but in the same room?" Lydia sighed. "Really, who cares? It's not our room." "Yeah, I guess." I turned to study the little window in our room. "Can you imagine climbing out of that tiny window and jumping? You'd be alive for at least 5 seconds before you hit the ground." "Oh, fuck, Becca, can you not?" Lydia glanced at the window and visibly shuddered. "You know I fucking hate heights, and just talking about that shit is raising my blood pressure." "We could always move into the suicide room," I teased her. "That one has a window on each wall." "Fuck you." Okay, but seriously, think about it. It would take a lot of commitment to squeeze out of that tiny window." "Yeah, well, remember, people were apparently smaller back then," Lydia mumbled as she pushed her bed further away from the window. Since Lydia was an outgoing and friendly person, we made friends at lightning speed. There were a lot of parties in those first few weeks, at one of which Lydia inevitably met a guy. I'd known the girl since we were in diapers, so I fully anticipated her having a boyfriend by the end of September. His name was Mike and he wasn't anything special, just your standard frat pledge dude canoe. After about a month on campus, the novelty of college started wearing off. Lydia and I found our stride and we spent more weekends studying than drinking. Midterms were coming up in a couple weeks, and I was determined to maintain a 4.0 GPA throughout my freshman year. One night in early October, I was woken up by a loud, grinding sound. I sat up in bed and strained to hear it again. Lydia was also wide awake and listening. Slam. "What the fuck?" she mouthed to me. It wasn't unusual for there to be noise in the hallways, since other people came in at all hours of the night. But this sound had definitely come from next door, the corner room. Grind. "Is that?" "Yeah," Lydia whispered. "That's the window next door." At Lydia's insistence, we kept our window closed at all times. However, there was no mistaking the sound of the window in room 733 being opened and closed again at regular intervals. Slam. Who's in there? Lydia shrugged. Is someone fucking with us? Is this like initiation? Lydia raised her eyebrow at me. Initiation to what? I don't know. College. Maybe they're hazing the freshmen. Grind. It opened. Who is hazing freshmen? I shrugged. Slam. It shut. Becca, I love you, but that was fucking stupid. I threw a pillow at her. Well, whoever it is, go tell them to knock it the fuck off. Me? I'm not risking being thrown out a window. Grind. Well, I'm not doing it. I'm an art major, you're a political science major, you go lay down the law. Fuck that. Then called dumb shit Beth. Isn't this the kind of nonsense she should deal with? Slam. I'm not calling her, don't you put that evil on me. Fine, Lydia whispered loudly. Then we'll just have to ignore it. I have class at 7:30, I whispered. Grind. Then do something. Ugh. I got out of bed and stomped to the door, threw it open dramatically, and went down the hall to pound on the door to room 733, which simply said, Supply Room. People are trying to sleep, please fucking stop, I said when there was no answer. Slam. Dude, seriously, I sighed. I stepped back from the door and immediately noticed problem. Room 733 was padlocked shut from the outside. I hurried back to my room. What happened? Lydia asked. I'm not going anywhere near that fucking room again. It's locked from the outside. I don't know how anybody could get in there. So you're saying it's a spooky ghost? She laughed. No, I'm saying there is creepy shit going on inside a room colloquially called the suicide room. Lydia scoffed and rolled over to go back to sleep. You should have been a drama major. We didn't hear the window next door again that night, but the next morning you could clearly see from outside that both windows in the corner room were now wide open. I watched the windows on room 733 for an entire week, but they remained open. Occasionally at night, I thought I could hear a noise next door, like marbles dropping and rolling across the floor. Since it never woke Lydia up, I didn't bother to say anything. One afternoon, I was alone in the dorm editing notes on my laptop. I had my headphones in, but the music wasn't loud enough to cover the noise of someone knocking on the door. Come in, I said without looking up from the screen. A moment went by and then I heard the knocking again. I jerked my earbuds out and slammed the laptop closed. I turned around. Come. What the fuck? The door to the hallway was wide open. I'd left it open on purpose since Ian, a junior I was dating, was supposed to be stopping by. I heard the knocking again from behind me and literally jumped out of my chair. It had come from the other side of the room, the closet door. It was the closet that shared a wall with room 733. Lydia, you're not fucking funny. Nothing. Lydia, I swear to God, I will punch you in your face. Silence. I walked over to the closet door and grasped the handle. Lydia, you're a fucking what? Her voice came from the doorway, behind me. I let go of the doorknob and stumbled back, wide-eyed. Lydia threw her stuff on the bed and turned to me, crossing her arms. I'm a fucking what? I thought you were hiding in the closet, I said lamely. What? Why? Because someone was knocking on the door. Jesus, Becca. Lydia rubbed her forehead and walked over to the closet, throwing open the door. There was nothing there but clothes and boxes. She made a swipe of her arm as if to say, What now? I swear. Becca, there's no one here. I know what I heard. We glared at each other until our little standoff was interrupted by the timely arrival of Ian. He immediately sensed the tension in the room. Hi, ladies, what's new? I gave my roommate a hostile look. There's strange shit is going on in that room next door, but that's not new. Which room? 735 or the empty one? The empty one, Lydia emphasized. 733. Yeah, I'm not surprised. That's the suicide room. Right, we heard about the deaths. I sat down on my bed. Yeah, it's pretty fucked up. 3 suicides all in one dorm room. 3? Lydia raised her eyebrow. We were told there were 2. Well, there were a couple people in the 70s, and then some guy about 10 years ago. He jumped out the window. Lydia and I both shuddered. Although she was much worse, we were both terrified of heights. A falling death was about the worst thing I could think of. I will admit that 3 suicides in the same dorm room is fucking disturbing, Lydia said in an apologetic tone. Yeah, I heard there's something in that room, Ian said. Like what? No one knows, but every year someone has a new theory. Usually right around Halloween something gets published in the campus paper. Whatever is in there though, it ain't friendly. So, has anyone ever killed themselves in the neighboring rooms, like this one? Nah, just 733. Honestly, I was surprised when I heard they were opening the North Hall this year. They told us we were the biggest incoming freshman class in 20 years, I said absent-mindedly. Yeah, I heard that too. You know you could request a room change. Ian sat down on the bed next to me, and I leaned against his shoulder. Yeah, but they wouldn't keep us together, Lydia cut in. Becca and I have been best friends for 15 years. We can't room with other people. So should we just keep living here next to Satan? I glanced at the closet door again. Lydia shrugged. At least we'll have some stories to tell after graduation. These aren't the kind of stories I want to tell. A few days later, Lydia began to believe my closet story. I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of someone whispering. I looked over at Lydia, who was already staring at me with wide eyes. She slowly brought a finger to her lips. I listened intently, trying to hear what the voice was saying and where it was coming from, but I couldn't understand even one word. I got out of my bed and tiptoed over to Lydia's. The whispering was definitely louder over there, but then she shared a wall with room 733. I listened harder. Never taken mouths of fools. What the hell? Lydia leaned over and put her ear up to the wall. The whispers suddenly stopped and I leaned closer. Suddenly there was a loud bang from the other side. Lydia immediately recoiled and clutched her ear in pain. Someone was in there. Suddenly more angry than scared, I again threw open our door and stomped over to the supposedly empty supply room. I banged on the door loudly, not caring who else I woke up at this point. Are you fucking kidding me? I yelled at the door. This shit isn't funny anymore. Come out of that fucking room, you asshole. Silence. And then the doorknob started to turn. I don't know what I'd expected to happen, but it wasn't that. I backed up so far from the door that I ran into the opposite wall. When the handle had turned all the way down, something started to push from the other side. The door groaned loudly, but the locks held. I held my breath until the pressure on the door subsided, and the handle slowly returned to its normal position. I noticed Lydia peeking her head out of our room. She held up her hands as if to say what happened. Someone thinks they're funny. I answered her out loud. She shook her head and disappeared back into our room. I knelt down on the floor and brought my head down to the carpet, peering under the door crack. It was the first time I had seen into the corner room. Room 733 was definitely a supply closet. There were chairs stacked along one wall and bed frames along the other. A few rotting mattresses were piled under one of the windows, and a thick layer of dust covered everything in the room. The windows were absolutely huge, which was something you couldn't really tell by looking up at the building. They were open as always, and I could definitely see how someone could easily climb through them to the outside ledge. The room didn't look like it had been disturbed in a couple of decades, which sent a shudder racking through my body. The moonlight, which had been providing enough light to see into the room, suddenly vanished and I saw only pitch black inside. I blinked rapidly, trying to adjust my night vision. I squeezed my eyes shut, and when I opened them, a large yellow eye was looking back at me, only a few inches away from my face on the other side of the door. I screamed and woke up half the dorm. There was no denying that things were escalating. The next morning, Lydia and I put in dorm change requests with resident services and hoped for the best. In the meantime, we agreed to never be alone in our dorm room at night. Either we both spent the night at home or neither of us did. We started spending most nights with our respective boyfriends. I told Ian everything that had happened, and he suggested I maybe talk to the campus paranormal society. I hesitantly made an appointment, and Lydia and I met with a small, cleanly dressed kid named Craig, and 4 of his colleagues, the following Tuesday. We told them everything we could remember, every incident, no matter how small. Craig and the 4 other members of the paranormal society sat quietly and took notes for half an hour. It wasn't until we finished that anyone spoke. "Is that all?" Craig asked. "Yes," I said slowly. "Would you mind waiting out in the hall for a few minutes, so that I may confer with my colleagues?" "Sure." Lydia smiled indulgently and stood up. "Whatever you need." The door had barely shut behind us when Lydia snorted and rolled her eyes. "Let's go." "Go where?" I asked. "Are you serious?" "Lydia, come on, we need help. I am freaking out. We haven't stayed one night in our dorm since Thursday, so this isn't something we can just brush off." "Okay." She threw her hands up. "Let's hear what they have to say, and then we can go over to resident services and check on our move requests." We loitered out in the hallway for another 15 minutes before Craig came out and asked us to come back and take a seat. With all the pomp and circumstance of a meeting of Parliament, Craig cleared his throat and made his diagnosis. "What you're dealing with, ladies, is a very angry ghost." "Is that your professional opinion, Craig?" Lydia said. I shot her a look. "What? Yes," he stuttered. "A vengeful spirit." "A spirit?" I asked. I very much doubted that that's what we were dealing with. "Yes," answered one of the not Craigs. "That's ghost to the layperson." "Jesus Christ," Lydia groaned and rubbed her temples. Mistaking Lydia's frustration with despair, Craig rushed right into his speech. "Don't be afraid, ladies, we're going to take care of you. It's true that spirits can be quite a headache if you don't know how to exorcise them, which is why it's good you came to us. Suicides almost always result in angry ghosts. They need revenge." "Revenge on whom?" I asked. "On other students. Perhaps this particular spirit was bullied into taking his own life, and now seeks to torment others." Listen. "We can take care of this for you right away. All we ask is a small donation to the society," Craig continued. "We honestly didn't realize that room was having this much activity. It's really very exciting." "Great, well, thank you for your time," Lydia said as she grabbed my hand and pulled me out of my chair. "Do you want to set something up for this weekend?" Craig asked. "Tell you what, we'll call you." Lydia hurried me out of the room wearing a weary look, and we didn't speak again until we were almost to the admin building. "That was a waste of time," she said. "Look, I'm not disagreeing with you, but..." "Becca, tell me you didn't honestly buy into that? So you don't think it's a... I was having trouble even saying the word. It sounded so ridiculous. "Ghost." "Well, I don't fucking know, but neither do they." That guy had no idea what the fuck he was talking about. I pulled my hood lower over my eyes as we stepped into line at the resident services desk. "Let me put it this way," Lydia continued. "They're playing Ghostbusters and we're living the fucking Exorcist." "Fine," I sighed. "Then what do you want to do? Just keep sleeping at Mike and Ian's until we get reassigned?" "I just want this to end." Lydia crossed her arms and stared straight ahead. We all wanted this to end. Even if living next to that fucking room wasn't scary, it was sure as hell distracting. "All right, well, I mean we're probably safe during daylight hours, so as long as we don't spend nights there we should be okay. Our room is only ghost adjacent after all, and our new assignments will come through soon." I checked my watch. Fuck, it's almost 2. "Shit, really? I gotta go. Mike got accepted to Sigma Chi and he's getting initiated today." "Oh yeah, I forgot he rushed." The girl at the desk waved us forward. I hadn't even realized we'd reached the front of the line. "Let me know what they say," Lydia said as she ran out the door. The girl at the desk eyed me suspiciously as I approached. "Hi, I'm..." You're the girl trying to move out of 734 in Riley, aren't you? She'd caught me off guard. Yeah, one of them. How'd you know? Sorry, I overheard you. I also saw your file cross my desk a few days ago, and I gotta ask, why are you looking to transfer rooms exactly? I was tired. I was beaten down. I didn't have the energy to think of a lie. Because shit is going on in the empty room next door, and it's really freaking us out. Noises, whispers, knocking. The other night, I saw someone. You saw someone? Yeah. In room 733? Yeah. I looked under the door. There was definitely someone in there. The girl narrowed her eyes at me for a moment, and then nodded for no particular reason. Well, your rooms aren't ready yet, but I've pushed them through as a priority. For right now, you're stuck, though. There just isn't anywhere else to put you. I sighed. I'd figured as much. I'm Alice, she continued. And look, I've actually done a lot of research on the Riley suicides, and I think I can help you. Or at the very least offer some insight. Really? I asked hesitantly. Absolutely. I'm in Taylor Hall, room 310. I'll be back to my dorm by 4 today. Thanks. We just came from the Paranormal Society on campus. Ugh, say no more. Alice rolled her eyes. Yeah, so, I'll definitely see you at 4. Great, Alice said and smiled. I was early to Taylor, but then so was she. I told our story for the second time that day, and Alice wasn't afraid to interrupt with questions, though her queries didn't betray her thoughts. When I was finished, she leaned back in her chair and sighed deeply. I can't believe it, she shook her head. I'd always heard rumors, but I honestly doubted any of it was true. I can assure you, everything I've told you is absolutely true. And how is it now, when you're there? We aren't ever there at night, but during the day we've heard scratching on the wall, really quiet whispering, and sometimes we still hear the window opening and closing, in broad fucking daylight. However, every time I look up from the street, the windows to 733 are open. Alice nodded. Well, for the record, I don't think you're in any danger. As much as it sucks, you guys are simply a casualty. You just need to stay out of room 733. I snorted. Are you kidding? I would never go in there. I believe that you believe that. But this thing, whatever it is, it's tricky, manipulative, a liar. And it's smarter than you. I'll try not to be offended by that. You shouldn't be. What do you think it is? Something very old and very evil. I regarded her skeptically, and then let my eyes wander around the room. I hadn't really noticed the decor before, but to say Alice had an interest in the occult was an understatement. I can't see any situation where I would be compelled to enter that room. I know. But you have to be prepared that there may come a time when you have to make a decision about entering that room. Because what you're dealing with, it's already killed 5 people. 5? I thought it was 3. Yeah, well, not everyone is inclined to do the level of research that I do. Let's see, there was Ellen Burnham in 1961, she jumped out the window. She was the very first. And then Tad Collinsworth in 1968, he jumped too. Marissa Grigg in 1975, she hung herself. Erin Murphy in 1979, she jumped. And then Eric Douston in 1992, he hung himself. 5 suicides. How could the university still let people live in there? They don't apparently. That's why it's a supply room. And back then? Well, every few years, once everyone who would remember had graduated, the room would be reassigned. This was before the internet, you know, and the incoming freshmen were clueless. But after that last one, Eric Douston, they closed the entire north hall of the 7th floor and built more rooms onto the south hall. So what does it want? Alice shrugged. Chaos, death, souls. Who knows? No one even knows what it is. Okay, so what do we know? We know that it's somehow bound to that room, though it seems to have minimal influence just outside of it. We know that everyone who ever died was alone at the time. And we know that it's a trickster. That's what we know. It wasn't enough. Why do you think they do it? I asked quietly. The victims. I nodded. All I know is what's rumored to be in the evidence files. All the suicides were found with pictures or writings that were considered unspeakable at the time. They contained horrible, evil things that would make you physically sick to read or see, they say. And these people, they drew them? They wrote that stuff? Yep. Whatever is in that room drove them mad. That's fucking terrifying. Have you guys considered getting somebody to bless the room? Jesus. Well, you'll have a hard time getting him, but perhaps some other sort of holy person. No, I mean Jesus, you're talking about an exorcism. Alice shrugged. Maybe. The rumor in the 70s was that this all started with a Ouija board game gone wrong in 1961. Really? That shit's made by Hasbro. Not in the 60s it wasn't. Anyway, it's just a rumor. The only person on campus who would know is Tom Moen in admin. I've tried to talk to him before, but he refuses to see me. Did he go here in 1961? Yes, and he was staying in Riley. We need to talk to him. I need to know what the fuck is happening, or I won't be able to live the rest of my life as a well-adjusted person. I suppose we can try to chase him down on campus. Can we talk to him tomorrow? We can try. Mr. Moen wouldn't see us that day or the next. We tried to catch him on his lunch hour and then again while he was leaving work, but he got around us every time. It was soon clear that the old man was actively avoiding us. Lydia and I had seen little of each other since we'd continued to sleep in other dorms. I went back to our room twice a day, once in the morning and once in the afternoon. Usually the other room was silent, but that didn't make me feel better. I could always sense something on the other side of the wall, somehow watching me. It felt like the calm before the storm. The Thursday before Halloween, I came back to the dorm to shower in the evening, much later than usual. I'd seen Lydia that afternoon, and she'd informed me that she had enough clothes stored at Mike's to last until graduation, so I knew I'd be there alone. I showered down the hall in the safety of the bathrooms, and then walked back to my room to change. I was supposed to meet Ian in half an hour to head out to a party, and I wanted to get out of here as quick as possible. Since the silence was unnerving me, I threw my iPod on the docking station and turned up AC/DC. I got dressed and then stood in front of the mirror to dry my hair. I flipped my head over and blow-dried upside down to try and give my hair some volume. When I flipped my head back up and shut off the blow-dryer, I immediately noticed the silence in the room. But that wasn't all I noticed. I wasn't in my dorm anymore. Behind me was reflected the dusty bed frames and large open windows of room 733. I spun around in a panic to find that I was actually standing in my own room. I looked back at the mirror to see that 733 still reflected there. A slight movement behind me was all it took to make me run. I grabbed my purse and phone and I fled from my room, slamming the door behind me. On the elevator ride down, I called Alice. I can't do it anymore, I said when she picked up. I can't go back in that room again. I can't ever go back. What happened? I told her. Jesus. What do you want to do? She asked. I need to talk to someone who knows what the fuck is going on. Is Tom Moen the only person we know was here in 1961? The only one I know of. Maybe we can get him on his way in tomorrow morning? We'll just corner him and refuse to move until he tells us something. He comes in at 6:30 according to the schedule I have. Do you want to meet me outside the Starbucks in the atrium? Fuck yeah, I do. I have a class at 7:30, but I'll blow it off. Okay, see you then. I wasn't usually much for parties, but I was glad I was going to one that night. As soon as we got there, I asked Ian to get me a drink. Since I wasn't usually much of a drinker, he gave me a raised eyebrow. I gave him a brief synopsis of what had happened earlier, hoping he wouldn't think I was crazy. Ian made me a scotch and coke. It was the first of many. Around midnight, I went to have a cigarette and checked my phone. I had a voicemail from Lydia left at 11:04 p.m. Hey Becca, listen, I just had a huge fucking fight with Mike. He Well, I guess his frat decided that for Halloween this year, all the new brothers have to spend the night in the suicide room. In our dorm. I can't fucking take it. He knows what's been going on with us, and he still agreed to do this. He's now trying to convince me that Sigma Chi is behind all of the stuff going on in room 733, because they've been trying to drum up buzz for their Halloween deal. I can't. I hit end and threw my phone in my bag. No wonder Lydia was pissed. This was not good. Not good at all. I found Ian inside and asked him to take me home. I was suddenly very stressed, very tired and very drunk. When the alarm went off at 6 a.m., it took everything I had to pull myself out of bed. I got dressed in the clothes I'd worn the night before and shuffled my way across campus to the atrium. Alice was already there with a black coffee in hand. I figured you'd need this, she laughed. How'd you know? Your texts. I texted you last night? Yeah, at about 1. You told me about Sigma Chi. Oh, God, yeah. I pushed my sunglasses higher up my nose and pulled my hood lower over my eyes. Those guys are idiots. Remember how I told you that it's crafty? Well, what if the point of messing with you was to make 733 provocative, to seduce people into going inside? No one has been in that room for years. Can you imagine how hungry that thing is? Do you think they're really at risk? I asked as I sat down on the steps to the admin building. Yeah. In fact, the only thing they have going for them is that all those suicide victims were alone at the time of their deaths. So it'll be less powerful with all of them there? Theoretically. We would know a lot more if we knew what it was. And we can't know what it is without knowing how it got here. And that is why we need Moen. What time is he supposed to get here? Actually, 20 minutes ago, Alice said grimly. It was another half an hour before we resigned ourselves to the fact that Mr. Moen had snuck around us as usual. We went to the front office hoping to beg again for an appointment with him anyway. The woman at the admin desk regarded us coldly. Tom isn't coming in today, or any other day for that matter. He quit yesterday. Looks like you won't be harassing him anymore. We weren't harassing him, I said. We just desperately needed to talk to him. We still do, added Alice. Well, you won't get any of his personal information from me, she said snidely and walked away. What the fuck do we do now? I asked Alice. Without Tom Moen, there's nothing left to do. Alice, fuck. I can't go back into that room. Well then I guess it's good your transfers came through. They did? Yep. I got the notice when I checked my work email this morning. You're going to Morton and Lydia is going to Tinsley. Oh, thank God. I thought you'd be happy about that. I also convinced my boss not to assign anyone else to room 734. Thank fuck. The only thing is you won't be able to move until Monday. I can last through the weekend, especially now that the end is in sight. I have to tell Lydia. I opened my phone to pull up Lydia's number, but my attention was caught by the red 1 badge over the voicemail logo. I hit play. It was the rest of the message from last night. I even look at his dumb fucking face anymore, so I'm going to head home. Don't worry about me, I'll be okay. I'm drunk enough to sleep through any bullshit from next door. I'm just so fucking pissed off right now. I would honestly rather deal with dumb shit Beth than Michael. My parents must be siblings because I'm that fucking retarded Benson. Let's hang out tomorrow, love ya. The message ended. God damn it. Alice gave me a questioning look. Lydia spent the night in our dorm. Alice cringed. She's safe though, right? As long as she doesn't go into 733. She won't. I thought of the always open large windows of the corner room. If nothing else, the mere thought of those would keep Lydia the hell out of that room. Good. Well, since we have nothing else to do you want to go look for theology books in the library? It's pretty much the only thing open right now. Sure, I shrugged. I didn't have another class until 10. The little old lady who sat behind the library's checkout desk must have been 1,000 years old. Miss Stapley's eyes were small and watery, and her skin looked like it was melting off of her skull. Still, she was nice and knowledgeable, and she sent us in the right direction for books on demonology, though she gave us a curious look as she did. There wasn't much. We read everything we could, but it either wasn't relevant or wasn't in English. We returned to her desk 30 minutes later. Ah, do you have anything on the occult? The occult? Ah. Her voice trailed off. Yes, I do. Over there to the left of the reference section. Okay, thanks. Sorry, I'm too hungover to use the Dewey Decimal System, I said. I don't think she likes the look of us, Alice whispered as we walked away. Our look or our subject matter? Probably neither. Within the hour we were back up at her desk having struck out again. We could tell she was getting annoyed as her eyes narrowed suspiciously at us as we approached. Ah, sorry. Do you know where we could find something on seances or Ouija boards or… Now listen, girls. Miss Stapley stood up from her desk and looked over her glasses at us. I really hope this is for class. It is, I said. It's not, Alice answered simultaneously. It's personal research. Research? What kind of research? Look, we're not going to mess with a Ouija board or anything, I said. Good. Miss Stapley smoothed her pleated pants and sat back down. Because I can't have that sort of thing going on here again. Again? Alice latched on. The older woman suddenly looked very uncomfortable and started fidgeting with a stack of books on her desk. We may have something on seances in. Miss Stapley, we're researching what happened in Riley in 1961, Alice interrupted. And also what's been happening there ever since. Well, it's no secret, is it? A student committed suicide in that room. Dreadful, but not unheard of on a university campus. 5 students, I corrected her. But you know that, right? Alice was suddenly talking very fast. Because you sound like you're well versed in this story. Please, tell us how this started, and we might be able to end it. End it? Miss Stapley's voice became quieter but more concentrated. Don't be so arrogant, young lady. You can't end it. People have always died in that room and they always will. There is no end to it, so you'd best stay far away from it. But maybe if we knew how this all started. It started just as you think it did. But everyone that was involved is either very old or very dead by now. Just stay away from that room. Concentrate on your studies. I leaned over her desk. Well, I'd love to, but they assigned my friend and me to the room next door. Maybe you can forget about all the suicides, but we can't. It won't fucking let us. Young lady, I never forget. Miss Stapley's voice was even quieter now. My friend Ellen was the very first to be killed in that room. She was my very best friend, and not a night goes by that I don't imagine her wiggling out of that tiny window, standing upon the cold ledge in her bare feet, and jumping off the 7th floor of that building. Alice sighed. I'm really sorry. I didn't know. Yes, well, these are old wounds, my dear. Now, girls, I suggest you request a room reassignment immediately. No one should be living on the 7th floor of that building. And that's all I'm going to tell you about it. Alice sighed, but resigned herself to a nod. We wouldn't learn anything more here. Still, it was quite a breakthrough. At least we had some information now. Alice walked away, and I made to follow her, but my feet wouldn't move. Something was bothering me. A small yet poignant word had been buried in Miss Stapley's story. A word that suddenly seemed very important. Hey, Miss Stapley, I asked the tired old woman at the desk. Why did you refer to the windows in 733 tiny? Because I've seen those windows and they're huge, like 5 feet tall. Dear, you're thinking of the corner room. That's the supply closet. Room 733 is next door to that. No, I stuttered. That's room 734. Yes, well, it is now. When they built the additional rooms onto the South Hall, they moved all the room numbers down. Oh my God, I suddenly felt very hot and very dizzy. That sneaky fucker, Alice whispered next to me, her skin paling. Lydia. We took off across the campus at a dead run, witnessed only by the few bleary-eyed students on their way to morning classes. When Riley finally came into view, I stumbled on the pavement as my blood turned to ice. From our vantage point we could clearly see the windows of the corner room were closed, the first and only time I had ever seen that way. And the window to my room was open. We ran into the lobby, pushing past several latte-sipping, Ugg boot-wearing freshmen who had just gotten off the elevator. I hit 7 and watched the doors close more slowly than they ever had before. I leaned against the wall, trying to steady my breathing. Alice, how the fuck did this happen? I don't know. I don't fucking know. She's been in there all night, Alice. In our room, alone. Alice shook her head but had nothing to say. When the doors finally opened on floor 7, we saw a quiet, deserted hallway. I ran toward my room with Alice right behind me. Rounding the corner, I threw open my door hoping it wasn't locked. And it wasn't. Lydia looked back at me. And for one breathless moment, cruel glimmer of hope crossed over her tear-streaked face. But it was too late. The next second, she leaned forward so slightly, and she was gone. She screamed the entire way down. Alice ran to the ledge where Lydia had just been while I stood motionless. She stuck her head out the window and looked down just as a different kind of screaming started from the bottom floor. Alice closed her hand over her mouth and pulled her head back into the room as tears of shock ran down her ghost-white face. The screaming from outside got louder as more people saw what remained of my best friend on the cold pavement. I leaned back against the dresser and slumped to the floor. A falling death. Lydia never wanted a falling death. I absent-mindedly picked up one of the pictures that were strewn all over the floor. It was a picture of Lydia's mother. She was dead. I picked up another picture. It was Lydia's baby sister. She was dead too. There were dozens of pictures just like it all over the floor. Lydia has been busy last night. As for the things depicted in them, I cannot tell you. Lydia was a talented artist, and I only saw a few before I got sick on the floor next to me. Alice was standing in the doorway yelling something down the hall. I don't know what she was saying because all I could hear was a high-pitched whine in the room. Suddenly a piece of paper slid out from under the crack in the closet door and glided across the floor toward me. I picked it up and studied it for a moment. This was drawn by Lydia too, but it wasn't like the others. It was a picture of the closet from my exact vantage point. In the drawing the door was cracked, and there was something looking back from the darkness. I put the paper down and studied the closet. The door was cracked open just like the picture. I squinted my eyes and tried to see inside. Just as I started to distinguish the defined lines of a long face looking back at me, Alice pulled me to my feet. "We need to get out of here," I thought I heard her say. I never went back into that room. My parents moved my things and I spent the rest of the semester in an apartment off campus. I transferred to an out-of-state school for my spring semester and finished my degree there. Every night I dream of Lydia pulling herself through the tiny window, shimmying out onto the cold ledge, standing up and knowing there's nothing between her body and the terrifying abyss in front of her. I watch her look down 7 stories to the black pavement below and realize, though not accept, her terrible fate. I see the blind horror cross her familiar features. I hear her wildly pounding heart, desperately trying to race through every beat of the life she should have lived, and knowing it has only mere seconds. I watch her look back at me, and I watch her fall. It's been 9 years since that night. And every fall semester for 9 years I've called resident services to see which dorms are open for new student assignments. Riley is always open. The 7th floor is closed. This year life and work got in the way, and I called much later than usual. I was put on hold immediately. "Resident services." A man finally answered. "Were you the one asking about open rooms in Riley?" "Yes, that's me." "We're entirely filled up and there's a waiting list for Riley. But as it happens, you actually have great timing. I make no promises, but we may be able to get you in. We just got approval this morning." "Approval for what?" I said slowly. "We're opening up the 7th floor."
Chapter 2. The Last Message.
A message appeared on every screen in the world. "Hide. I stared with confusion at my phone. The rest of the gang were all in on this Monopoly game. "I swear to God, if you get free parking, I will literally kill your stupid face," said Evelyn. Ravi rolled the dice in his hands. "Come on, sweet baby Jesus, I just need a 4. He dropped them onto the board. "Fuck," he said, probably biffing it like always. I tried to make sense of it. Just a word on my screen. Black text on an all-white background. A rather classical-looking font. "Hide." I tapped rather impatiently on the expensive black rectangle. The text wouldn't disappear. "AJ," Evelyn called, like a teacher busting a student. "You're fucking addicted. Play board games like a normal human adult." "Yay, sorry." A few more desperate finger pecks at the screen. Then I turned to holding the power button down for an extended period. With my free hand, I grabbed the dice, rolled a 3, landed on B and O Railroad. After 2 seconds of thought, "Nah, fuck railroads," I said. Of course, we weren't animals. If someone didn't want to buy a property, that was fine. No auctions or any of that nonsense. House rules. Back to the phone, as Hero, on my left, took the cubes and prepared to drag his sorry little shoe across Go to collect his $200. A minute with the power button didn't do anything. We were entering factory reset territory. I contemplated borrowing Ravi's laptop to Google whatever the fuck this might have been. I felt the apartment rumble, albeit just for a split second. As if we were on the edge of an earthquake. I tensed briefly. The background noise from the TV, "No One Wants," this auto-playing on Netflix, disappeared, following the faint sound of the flicker of static. Ravi was the first to get up. "I don't," he said, talking slowly as if not to jinx it. "I don't think that was an earthquake." He examined the TV, confused at the outage. He checked the wires. "Shouldn't be the breaker. I don't have that much stuff plugged in, do I?" I grappled with the sad, likely hacked state of my phone, and that weird word staring me down. "Damn, that's fucking weird," I heard Hero say, half laughing. Head lifted. "What?" I asked to catch Hero turning his phone to me. His home screen, too, had been replaced by black text atop white. "Hide." Evelyn, as anti-technology as it comes, had properly clocked this reprieve as her time to quickly respond to long outstanding texts. "The fuck?" she said. "What is this?" At my confused look, bordering on scowl, resting scowl face, she flipped her phone around to show me the damage. It was the same on hers. I grew a bit nervous. "Ravi, where's your phone?" I asked him. "I'm sure it's somewhere," he said, still tinkering with the TV. Likely not due to any of his troubleshooting, it flashed back to life, red power light at the base, blinking steadily. A simple message now appeared on the big screen. "Hide?" Ravi asked, grabbing the remote and pressing buttons to switch back to Netflix, but nothing was registering. "Dude," I said. He turned around. I showed him my phone, Hero and Evelyn showed theirs. He looked back at the TV, then at us again. "Wait, how is that possible?" "Is that like an Amber Alert?" Hero asked. "I mean, I guess, but that's a push notification. This is like completely overtaking the screen." Ravi's brows furrowed. "On different hardware, too." "A hack?" I asked. He shrugged. "That's kind of a weird hack, no?" "Government experiment?" Hero again. A thought came over me. I walked to the balcony, slid the door open, stepped out onto it. Eye of Sauron the city from Ravi's 14th floor apartment. In the neighboring apartment towers, most of the units had blinds down, curtains closed. The few unshuttered, however, I felt like that guy from Rear Window, contained strangers staring perplexed at their phones. At their computers. The sides of bolted-to-the-wall TVs, barely visible to me, displayed the same white background with text atop it. What I was seeing, everyone else was seeing. The others joined me on the balcony. "Whatever it is, it's at least hit this block," I said. I looked down at the city streets, most of the people below caught in a similar holding pattern of standing frozen, heads fixed to their devices. "I guess we don't have anything to call the cops with?" Hero. "I'm sure they're aware." Me. "Maybe wait it out until they fix it." Ravi. I nodded. And yet, I could tell Evelyn was a bit perturbed, forcing magnetic thoughts to imbue her silence with weight. Thoughts? I asked her. I mean, should we do it? She asked. Do what? Ravi? Hide. Her again. Hide where? Ravi again. I don't know, she said. I mean, we're already in my apartment. I'm sure that's good enough, right? He said. A pause. Let's not lose our heads, Ravi continued. This is nuts, but it's not. I mean, it's not like, literally hide, right? Hero clicked his fingers. What if it's viral marketing? Like for a movie? Hero with the necessary but unintentional levity. Hacking our phones so we can't use them? I don't know if that's in Lionsgate's purview, man, I said, then head turned to Evelyn. But hide? The flicker in her eyes more than meant that she'd sided with the light bulb in her head. She returned to the inside and got to exploring Ravi's apartment carefully. What are you doing? Ravi asked, trailing. Hero and I followed. I don't care if I look stupid. It could be a warning. Maybe something is happening, she said. We're in a box, basically, said Ravi. We're fine, Ev. But the fucking thing, she motioned to the TV, then to her own phone, says hide. Maybe it's that literal, she continued scouting, finally settling on the sliding closet in Ravi's room, the best she could come up with in his 600-square-foot quarters. I'll do here unless you think there's better. Evelyn, Ravi stressed. She shuffled in, past hung garments, scooching to the end to make space. I'm going to close the door soon, and if you're all really my friends, you'll join me. Awkward silence until Hero chimed first. I mean, guess it's good to be safe, right? He went for it, second-guessed for a second, then committed to entering. You guys get the luxury of laughing at me forever if I'm dumb. Win-win, she called while Hero wedged in beside her. A compelling argument, certainly. Begrudgingly, I followed, tucking in next under Ravi's dress clothes. There was still room for him inside his own closet. Fucking hell, he caved, joining last, sliding the door closed to introduce darkness. I went back to my phone. Still that classical font. Still that mandate. How long do we have to stay in here? Ravi asked. 5 minutes, she said. Yeesh, he tagged. And then we sat in stillness for a while. Distant tick-tick-ticks of the clock in the living room bringing down the blood pressure a tad. It all felt silly, kind of fun. Remember when we went camping at Sunlight Groves? Hero asked. Glamping, Ravi clarified. Ev thought she saw a bear. Hero laughed. A bear and its cub. It was dark. It fucking looked like bears, she said, half laughing herself. I heard noises too. Bears at Sunlight Groves, he said again. Saddest patch of trees in America. Guys, shut up. We're here, so let's commit to the bit. Before the conjuring doll gets us, said Ravi, surprisingly not bitterly. We kept our traps zipped for another minute. Eyes at my phone again. Hide. Nonsensical. All of it really, but in a way that was starting to sit more and more uncomfortably for me. What do you think it is? Hero whispered. I shook my head. Evelyn with a light shrug. Ravi with a deep inhale before speaking. I mean, obviously sophisticated, he said, voice low. Like it's obviously something. I waved my phone. My bank is on this, and it's bricked now basically. I'm fucked. They'll figure something out, said Ravi. Powerful knocks at his apartment door all of a sudden. Thundering. Hey, a voice called, muffled through the walls. Ravi, you there? Evelyn braced. Who is that? A skinwalker, obviously, replied Ravi. Kidding. My neighbor Monica. Evelyn reached across me and Hero to tug at Ravi's sleeve. Are you positive? Yes, and I should probably get it. You said 5 minutes, she said. Yeah, but I'm being a pretty trash neighbor right now, he replied. The knocking persisted. So did the words. I have this weird thing on my phone. Brad has it too. It says hide. TV same thing. Computer same thing. I don't know how to reach anyone or what to do, the neighbor trailed on. Ravi blew air out of his nose. All right, this is stupid. I'm gonna... No, said Evelyn, but then all of a sudden... He stopped. We all stopped. I felt something. Something very, very real. No knocking anymore. Or at least, I couldn't hear anything. Not the tick of the clock, nor the soft rustle of us against clothing. It was like the world was holding its breath. Like there was a presence, right outside the closet. Then, the sting of static in my ear, before. It passed. Whatever it was, the feeling dissipated, the sound returned, and I sneaked a glance at my phone. The word hide was gone, and replacing it was my home screen. The silence between the four of us was uncomfortable. "Did you feel that?" Evelyn finally whispered. No one said anything. Ravi outstretched his arm yet again to slide the door open, but his hands were shaking. "You can do it," I whispered. "I think we're good." He steeled himself, looking very much like he was crossing some sort of internal threshold. He pulled the door aside, revealing his room exactly as we'd left it. We took it in. "I'm going to answer Monica," he said, with not a whole lot of vigor to his voice, getting up and creeping out of the room. The rest of us followed, stopping in the living room while he continued to the door. I went to Twitter, searched hide, and sorted by new. Evelyn, meanwhile, grabbed the remote from the stand and turned the TV, now hideless, on, and maneuvered through the Roku channels. "What are you looking for?" Hero asked. "Just like a live channel, I guess," she replied. "The news?" My scrolling wasn't yielding anything of help or insight, though it was clear, via the confused posts from seemingly around the whole world, that the scope of whatever happened was global. My focus shifted to Ravi, who was standing on the welcome mat. I pressed against the door's peephole. He hadn't moved in quite some time. "Everything all right, man?" I asked. He didn't reply, just stood there frozen. I approached slowly. She's... I heard him croak. I reached him, patting him on the shoulders and urging him to detach from the door viewer. He finally did, leaning against the wall at first before slowly sliding to a seat on the floor. I peered into the hallway through the hole. Outside, his neighbor, the one knocking, looked like she'd been skewered. Decimated. An explosion of blood in the hallway. "What?" I felt a buzz on my phone. I pulled it out. Again. Before I could even process, I heard Ravi and Evelyn react. "There's another one. It says again now." I turned to see the foreboding word on the TV. "Fuck." "So we should hide again?" Hero called. Much like Ravi, I was shell-shocked. "AJ, what do you think we should do?" he repeated. "Evelyn," I said, trying to force the words out of my mouth. "You had good instincts the first time. What do you think?" "How much time do you think we have?" she asked. How much time passed between when I first saw the word hide and when we felt that presence in the closet? "It might have been 10 minutes, I heard Ravi mutter, almost lifeless. "I don't?" Then Evelyn interrupted herself. "Wait, what did you just see outside?" She started approaching the door. I stopped her. "I don't think it'll be good for you to see it." Are you serious?" she responded. "Yes," I said, immediately realizing that lying might have been smarter. "We can't assume we have the same amount of time," Ravi added. I went with my pitch. "Do we try the same spot?" Hero started pacing, thinking, tapping his foot. If we think about it, it said, hide, and we hid. Now it's saying again, and obviously that means that, whatever happened, is gonna happen again. He gave us a look, as if he could see, in our drained expressions, what was waiting on the other side of the door. "That's a great recap, man," I said. "What I mean," he said, struggling, "is that when you'd play as a kid, if you kept picking the same spot over and over, eventually it'd catch up to you." "Are we really trying to apply some sort of logic to this?" Ravi mumbled. Evelyn fortified herself. "I think he's right. It's nuts, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but we need to operate on gut. And gut tells me we pick better spots this time." "But spots makes it sound like we should split up," I said, looking around, slowly realizing that the limited real estate we had to work with meant this suggestion made more sense than I would have liked. I turned to Ravi. Where should we all go? He shook his head, palmed his forehead a few times as if to slap himself back to reality. We do, he started thinking. 2 under my bed, he grimaced, letting neurons collide in his mind. One of us in the utility closet, the other, laundry closet. He got up and pointed. One of the closets was right behind me. Life in him again. Now! My eyes flitted to Hero and Evelyn, who ran into the bedroom. Ravi gave me a nod before entering the laundry closet and awkwardly squeezing in with the washer and dryer, closing his door. I entered the utility closet and closed mine. Rather, I tried to. The door wasn't clicking shut. Fuck, I said. Ravi, the door. It's not. But then I fought the urge to say anything more. If time was up, I'd compromise my spot. Hell, compromise his spot too if I kept talking. I tried a few more times to get it to close, then I committed, terrified out of my mind, to gripping the handle and holding the door shut. I tried to keep my shaking hand and quickening breath in check as the silence overtook again. Complete silence, and then that presence. I felt a light tug at the door. I kept my hold firm but didn't try to overpower, didn't want to completely give it away. And again it stopped. The feeling disappeared. And I waited 15 seconds before sneaking a look at my phone to see that the again warning was gone. I heard the sound of Ravi's door swing open first. I followed with mine. He was emotional. I forgot that door is fucked. I got scared, man, and I was, "You're all good, it's all right, man, I know. I even heard you call for me and I didn't. I panicked and I thought it'd. We're alive, man, it's all right, And immediately I remembered it wasn't just us. Evelyn and Hero. Right, he said. We rushed to his bedroom. Nothing at first. The two hadn't emerged yet. For a moment, the horrifying thought that we'd be pulling their corpses out from under the bed rushed past me. Guys, I said, coast is clear. Quick. Silence. For quite some time before they finally shuffled out in one piece, alive. As they shifted from crawl to bend to standing, I wanted to hold them. Hold everyone. For just a second, I felt a newfound appreciation for life and their faces and personalities. Another buzz on my phone. I took a look. Break time. I let out a sigh of relief and showed the message to the others. I guess that's good, Evelyn said. A second to catch our breaths after this fucking craziness. But then what? Ravi asked. Is this just going to continue? We walked into the living room together, nervously. We haven't even gotten a single second to wrap our heads around this, Evelyn again. Something in me didn't seem right. I didn't feel good. Hey, Ev, how'd you know that we should have stayed in the closet for 5 minutes? Hero asked somewhat pointedly. I clocked minor annoyance in her face at the question. I didn't know anything. It was a guess. But I mean, yeah, you guys were fucking lucky I was here and pushed for it because fuck were you all being stubborn. Hero wore a strange expression as he looked at her. All right. Sounds like you want to say something more, she said. Why would I? What makes you think I'd... Ravi interrupted Hero by stepping between the two of them. Holy hell, keep your heads on, people. But as he said it, and maybe it was just an aberration in my mind, but I couldn't help but feel something significant stir within me, something really inflame, as if even though his face was straight, he was concealing some sort of inner smile at what was happening. Hero, I think you're focusing your skepticism in the wrong direction, I said. Ravi's expression turned irritated, which all but confirmed it for me. I don't know if you want to be mad at the person that saved us the first time, I said, trying to make a point by motioning to Evelyn, but as I looked at her, something felt wrong there too. I contained it. Or rather, the person who wanted to open the closet door. And then something even more obvious hit me. Wait, Ravi, you tried to kill me. And all of a sudden I was glaring at him, my temper rising by metric tons every second, as if it was all starting to make sense. Evelyn and Hero joined me. Ravi looked incredulous. I already admitted that I fucked up with the door. I confessed to you. Why are you trying to make things worse? I was trying to calm them down. Then, noticing us approach him, he backed towards the kitchen cabinets. He pointed at me. You were on your phone when this first happened, he said, as if he were having his own revelation. You were waiting for it to start. That's an insane fucking misdirect, I said, positive that I couldn't trust him. But as my eyes turned to Evelyn and Hero, I realized I couldn't trust them either. Couldn't trust anyone. Still, Ravi absolutely needed to be the first to go, the first to be disposed of. He grabbed a knife from the cupboard and held it out at us. And only the smallest thought in the back of my mind was telling me that we were being toyed with, that it was so incredibly obvious that whatever this was, it had a handle on us. But unfortunately that understanding was academic for me at best, as I kept finding string after string of thoughts and emotions connecting, everything adding up, the logic sound, my emotions inflamed. Break time, Evelyn said. It's breaking us. Of course she would know that, though, if she were in on it. We all looked at her. I watched for sudden movements from any of these traitors, these bastards. Even a millimeter shift wouldn't get past me. It's overriding us. It's flooding us with anger that isn't ours, and real as it feels. She faced her phone at us, beckoning us to read it clearly. Break time? We can't fall to it. And that small grounded part of me took over, even though I was sure with everything in my soul that she, Ravi, and Hero were the source of everything that was happening. Ravi's grip on the knife tightened as he and the rest of us remained in the bizarre equilibrium of our four-way standoff. It's all of you, I thought to myself, before I felt a lightness overtake me. Like an insatiable hunger fading, or extreme fear dissipating when you realized that noise in the other room wasn't a person but rather something knocking over, my feelings of unrest and paranoia were gone. My phone screen, once again, returned to its default background. It was hard to describe how I felt now. Lucidity. Shame. I looked at Ravi sadly. His head hung low as he put the knife back in its place. Hero turned to Evelyn first. I'm sorry, he said, then to Ravi. Sorry. Sorry, guys. Ravi. I'm sorry. Me. You're welcome, assholes. Evelyn, we deserved that. That was fucking insane, Ravi said. Like a fucked up roller coaster ride, said Evelyn. I didn't, that wasn't totally me, Hero said. Like, something was in me, and it was. It's okay, man. I was getting tired of saying it, and certainly I out of everyone didn't deserve to impart forgiveness anyway, after where my own head was at only 30 seconds ago. We need to write something down, like we are susceptible. Don't forget, started Ravi. We just need to remember to keep your heads on, I interrupted. Remember. But I think the fear that again would pop up on our phones drove him to start rummaging for some paper, start scribbling some words on it, while the rest of us tried to soak in the reprieve of nothing happening. Every half second a luxury. I wanted to say sorry another 20 or so times, something I was sure wasn't a feeling unique to me. I feel like I'm losing myself, I said. It felt like I was in a dream at this point. Yeah, said Ravi. Yeah. We're, Hero said, looking at us carefully, probably all gonna die. Should we say our words, I guess? Don't talk like that, said Evelyn. How many people do you think are dead? Hero asked. I went to the TV, temporarily free yet again from 1 or 2 word mandates, turned it on, toggled through the homepage until I found the live stream of a soccer game. One fixed camera angle. Everyone in the stadium, torn apart. Players on the field within frame, eviscerated. I returned to the homepage, navigating in an attempt to find a different live program. I clicked on what appeared to be a news channel I hadn't heard of before. The sight of an empty desk appeared. Wires leading under the desk made me think that perhaps the anchor was hiding under it. We are trying to report, he said, knowing that the signal is going to cut out. I've survived so far, survived whatever exactly this might be, but the carnage from footage I've seen is extensive. I strongly recommend. The broadcast was interrupted by the new word. Seek. Again in classical lettering. And the screen cracked, then shattered with a loud pop, sending bits of glass onto the floor. As did the screen on my phone that I'd placed on the coffee table. as did the phones in Evelyn and Hero's hands too, reactively dropped on the floor by the pair, a weak bounce before settling. I panicked. Seek, I said desperately, trying to jolt my brain to the task. Maybe something out of place, Evelyn said. What if we have to find what's killing everyone, said Hero. I don't. I started, but I couldn't even muster up a close to the sentence. I ran to the balcony outside to see if there was something obvious to look for, in the sky, in the city. What I spotted on the neighboring high-rises was blood-stained curtains, unrecognizable bodies where blinds were lifted, and, as my eyes darted from spot to spot, a small TV in one of the apartments. The screen looked unbroken. A word on it I couldn't make out. 5 letters was the best I could do. It's the screens, I said. We need to find a screen that still works. I ran back into the living room. Does anyone have binoculars? They all looked at me. Why the fuck would anyone have binoculars? Ravi asked. There's a screen, I think, in one of the other apartment buildings. It's working. There's a word, but I can't see it. We need to find another one. I don't know. I ran into Ravi's office. Computer screen broken. Fuck. Grabbed his laptop. Shattered. Nope. I nervously tapped my chest with the fingertips of both of my hands, while the rest desperately searched for something viable too. Did I have to run to the other apartment? Would there even be enough time? How would I even get in? And then, like a bolt of the blue, it hit me. Ravi, where's your phone? His voice was a little confused. I don't know, man, I lose it all the time. Find it. You really think that's it? We're looking for a functioning screen. It's the only one we haven't ruled out yet. I turned to Hero next. Check out the other apartments on this floor. See if any of the doors are unlocked. If they are, go inside, check everything. Phones, laptops, TVs, doesn't matter. See if there's a message intact on any of them. On it, he said, rushing to the door, opening it, freaking out at the body in front of it, nearly tripping, then composing himself and rushing into the hallway as the door closed behind him. We tore apart Ravi's apartment next. Couch cushions. Where do you usually lose it? I asked. My head peeked under the bed, peeked into counters alongside Evelyn, desperately. I don't, man, he answered. It's stupid, but sometimes I literally just chuck it across the room. Helpful, supremely helpful. In the bathroom, I looked in the medicine cabinet. Then, back into his room to his closet, checking the pockets of all of his pants. I started to feel the inevitable looming. This was the one that was going to kill us, wasn't it? Love you guys, I heard Evelyn say almost under her breath, like she could feel it too. No tangible ticker counting down, but a feeling in my chest. A train closing in, with us tied to the tracks. Ravi running to the TV stand, looking behind, then under books, under shelves. And I was back in the living room again, sure there was nothing left, my eyes lowering to the painful game we'd started our deadly evening with, Monopoly. Specifically to the messy pile of 50s, 20s, and 10s on Ravi's side of the board. I knew his etiquette for swapping some of them out for hundreds was quite poor. The cash stacked high, which made sense. He was crushing all game. And yet, I crouched and did an even more aggressive sweep of the spot that we'd started our desperate search at, to discover his preserved Samsung Galaxy A35 underneath the fake money, with a new word to greet me. Smile. And it really did feel like time was up this time. A founded to avo smile. I screamed like a goddamn auctioneer. Evelyn turned first from her spot in the kitchen. What? I ripped the phone from the ground and held up the message to her. Smile. She mirrored my uncomfortable expression. All teeth feigned happiness, as did Ravi as he bolted out of the room before even seeing the message on the phone or my intense eyes. Hero threw open the door. Couldn't find anything, I'm sorry, he screamed. He saw our wide smiling faces and our eyes screaming at him to get the hint as I tried to mouth the word while keeping my pose, but instead it sounded like sma. And yet, despite the confusing sight, with the luckiest stroke in the world, he copied and showed me those pearly whites. I retained my beaming smile, feeling a tear of fear travel down my cheek, my eyes glued to Ravi's phone in my hand, hoping and praying that we wouldn't all get torn apart. And the word disappeared. I showed the group the proof, and one by one our cheery expressions dropped to our default nervous frowns. Resting scowl face restored. A collective exhale. "I can't fucking do this," said Ravi. "I know," Evelyn added. And unlike some of the gaps we'd been afforded in the past, I already spotted a new message on the single remaining functional phone left in my right hand. Point to sacrifice. I could feel the group's eyes on me. I couldn't hide the misery. "What?" Ravi asked. "Point to sacrifice," I said, barely legible. "AJ?" Evelyn asked. I tilted the phone so they could read it. I couldn't say the words any louder, my body wouldn't let me. Underneath the words, a timer had been running, one that was already down to 145, 144, 143 by the time I flashed them the phone. And yet still, all of us needed more seconds to let it settle. I felt defeated, truly this time. "All right," said Ravi, cutting through the holding pattern. "So what? We talk it through with the time we have left? Maybe we all agree on someone to point at. I mean, hey, fuck knows what I have to live for." Hero next. My family, mom, dad, siblings. I wasn't even thinking of them this whole time. They're all probably dead, Yeah, I interrupted, his words hitting me immediately and curbing any remaining social etiquette I had left. Everyone I had ever known was likely gone. Oh wow. Evelyn smiled at us softly. "I just have you guys now," she said. "So, yeah, fuck this," she said, immediately pointing to herself, almost causing me to die right there in fear she'd be torn apart immediately, but the counter was still ticking down. "I flipped the board on this bullshit," she said without wavering. Hero pointed to himself. "Fuck it, yeah. You know what, I flipped the board too," he said. I looked at him, almost nervously, exasperated. "Really, after all that, guys?" "If there is a hell," Ravi said. "Unlikely, but what the fuck, maybe we dodged that bullet." He curled his index finger back towards himself. "Flip the fucking board." I just looked at them. It was strange to feel a deluge of selfish thoughts flood into me all at once. "All right," I said, copying my peers. "Let's do it." I pointed at myself too, like we were all playing Simon Says or something. I took an appreciative look at my old friends, the longest-standing friends I'd ever had in my stupid life. And then at the Monopoly board we were playing on. It really was quite an awful game. I wasn't sure why we'd always subject ourselves to it. I saw the pile of money on free parking. The only way to make it fun was to play with bullshit rules, house rules. "Wait," I said, "follow me." I sprinted to the door. I opened it, held it open for the rest. I pointed at Ravi's dead neighbor in the hallway in front of the door. Monica. We didn't know what we were dealing with until she died. "Her sacrifice gave us a chance," I said, almost looking up as if I was speaking to whoever was enacting this terror on us. I was aware it was a reach. 009. 008. And we've probably lost a lot of humanity since then, so... "Sorry," I said, pointing at her. "And thank you." 006. 005. And my best friends pointed too. A real morbid way to close things out, with a clash of sorry and thank you escaping them as what would likely be their last words. I had really interrupted what was quite a nice moment inside for this strangeness. 002. 001. 0 o'clock. "House rules," I said. And then I prepared myself for it. Pain, then annihilation. But nothing came. Instead, Ravi's phone in my hand just read, "Good game." Before defaulting to Ravi's homepage picture, a borzoi. He didn't even own one. He was just obsessed with that breed of dog. We stood there for 10 minutes, it felt, before we finally ventured inside, single file, like a group of polite zombies. I was unsure what to make of what had happened, what to do, who to check on, the state of the world, what was going on around me. I sat back down at the Monopoly board. The others, in an almost Manchurian candidate sort of way, took their spots too. I think it was my turn, I said slowly. I grabbed the dice. I rolled. It was a 10. I tapped my top hat icon on each square until I landed on Shortline Railroad. Do you want to buy it? Evelyn asked me. I thought about it for too long. Finally, sure.